Hello guys, this is Revolution. So, over the past few days, Dragon Ball power scaling has caused quite the stir in our community, and not just the Dragon Ball community, the fictional community, including the likes of the comic community and even the entire anime community. Two of the most prominent and respected Dragon Ball power scalers, Seth the Programmer and Chuck the Cyber Cook, released, in my humble opinion, a brutally honest, damning insight addressing the negative perception towards Dragon Ball power scalers, fairly debunking critiques' personal incredulity regarding Dragon Ball power scaling, and addressing the germinating cesspool of clickbait parasites in the Dragon Ball community that truly are the plague on all our houses. If you haven't seen it already, I suggest you do so. It's entitled Debunking Anti-Power Scalers and the Dissonance in the Dragon Ball Community. Like I said, this video has caused a stir in our community. Did they go too far with certain people? I'll leave that up to you, but the crux of the video, the main thing that they are talking about, addressing the cognitive dissonance in our community, especially towards power scaling and clickbait trash, suffocating the Dragon Ball YouTube community, is something that has needed to be addressed for a while, and I salute them for hitting the nail on the head. And for anyone who assumes that I'm defending them because they're my friends, I have never spoken to Seth or Chuck properly, so I have no personal agenda here. I simply concur with the purpose of that video, but due to the response to their video, it's become quite clear the personal incredulity regarding Dragon Ball power scaling is the catalyst for some, quite frankly, ignorant critique. Obviously, to those of you who have been following me for a while now, you'll know that I do Dragon Ball power scaling amongst other Dragon Ball subcultures such as theories, verse battles, spoilers, and just general Dragon Ball discussions. But without a doubt, the ones I generally get attacked for the most on are the power scaling videos. And usually that abuse is just radiating cognitive dissonance. So in this video, I'm going to try and build a bridge between us power scalers, us that enjoy the subculture of power scaling in the Dragon Ball community, but not only try to explain articulately, but educate how and why we come to the conclusions we do regarding a character's power. So what is the purpose of power scaling, in particular Dragon Ball characters? And the law of power scaling Dragon Ball characters is different to that of the comic world, and I'll explain that later. But the purpose of power scaling is to make an objectifiable evaluation of a fictional character's strength. For Dragon Ball in particular, we will use official source material, such as the original manga, Akira Toriyama interviews, which you can find translated on Konsenshu.com. In fact, I would actually put forward Herms as the most valuable player in the Dragon Ball community, whose tireless work translating Japanese manuscripts has been a true credit to our community. And then, of course, there's the official Dragon Ball guidebooks, such as the Daizenshu. Then there's the super exciting guides, which is basically an extension of the Daizenshu. Then, of course, there's the anime itself. With the Dragon Ball Super anime, it's pretty much a separate canonicity to the Dragon Ball Super manga. So the Dragon Ball Super anime is pretty much the main source material for Dragon Ball Super the anime. Dragon Ball Super has even included Dragon Ball Kai and some of its filler, so you could technically count that as well. But the main source material for Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z are the manga. If you want to scale Dragon Ball GT characters, of course, that didn't have its own manga. You have the anime series for GT, and then of course you have the comic book companion guide and the GT Perfect files, which are Dragon Ball GT's exclusive official guides. And if there's still not an answer to some of your queries about Dragon Ball, you could potentially look at secondary sources like the Dragon Ball computer games, or interviews with low-key staff who worked on the projects themselves. But good Dragon Ball power scalers will gather the intel from these sources and apply it to their scaling. But of course that's not all power scaling is. Obviously we're trying to get a reference point of where they would fit in, say, dimensional tiering, for example. And to do this, we have to apply scientific measurements and applicable philosophy to evaluate a character's feats, and critically using the official source materials I mentioned earlier to extrapolate how strong that would make him as the character grows throughout the narrative. For example, First form Frieza blew up planet Vegeta in his first form. If you know anything about Frieza, you'll know that his first three transformations are actually his suppressed transformations. His final form, his original state, is actually his most powerful form in the Namek Saga. Obviously he has Golden Frieza now, but originally it was his final form. In his first form with a power level of 530,000, as stated in the manga, whereas his final form at 100%, his power level is now 120 million. That's a 226 times increase on First form Frieza, who blew up planet Vegeta. So logically, he would be able to blow up 226 planets. I mean, I would actually argue that he was casually blowing up Planet Vegeta and he wasn't even near full power in his first form. But that's a discussion for another day. Clearly, what I'm trying to say here is basically in his final form at 100%, he should logically, by simple math really, be able to blow up 226 planets. Will we ever see him do that? Of course not. Does it mean he can't? Of course not. What would it be his motive to gather 226 planets just to demonstrate he can blow up 226 planets in his final form? And that's why we like to power scale, because we want to find out how strong these beings would be at their full power, because they're not going to demonstrate through the narrative because it doesn't fit their motives as characters. Now, for any critical thinking power scaler, character motive is incredibly important. Not only does this give us an idea on whether they're in a suppressed or full powered state, but it also tells us something incredibly important, and that is basically the fact that they're just a character in a fictional universe. The entire Dragon Ball franchise is essentially fiction, no matter what aspects of Dragon Ball you like, whether it's the animation, the music, the power scaling, the lore behind it, the inspirations behind it, your favourite characters. Essentially, what Dragon Ball is a story. It's the account of an imaginary character, Goku, and yes, Goku is the main character of Dragon Ball, whether he's your favourite character or not, supported by a cast of other imaginary characters, and the actions of these imaginary characters that articulates imaginary events told in a chronological order, which forms a narrative. And this narrative is formed by the author, in this case Akira Toriyama. And in the case of Dragon Ball Super, with additional ideas put out there by Toyotaro for the manga and the Toei Animation creative team. But essentially what they're doing is telling us the story. They are telling us the narrative. That's where author's intent comes in. Why is this important? Because author's intent can give you an indication on where said character's power lies. Now, authors and writers use characters, narrators to tell their story, and that's why we should take their statements into account. Of course, there are characters who boast about having such power, yet they never demonstrate such power. But this is a character plot device, and usually if that is the case, that plot device will be resolved in the larger narrative itself. But if a character makes a statement that isn't later contradicted in the narrative, that is usually the author trying to articulate to us, the audience, a plot device that he wants us to acknowledge. So when Cell blurts out that he could destroy a solar system with his power, Akira Toriyama is trying to articulate to us that Cell can blow up a solar system. Why is he doing this rather than showing us Cell can actually blow up a solar system? Well, it would have been the end of that arc, in fact, the end of the story, because Goku, Vegeta, etc. cannot survive in space. That is truly plot convenience. If Cell actually did blow up the solar system, the Cell saga would have been finished. Of course, the big example we have now is in the Battle of God saga. Goku and Beerus were stated to be shattering a universe, a 3 and 4 dimensional time-space continuum, reducing it to an empty void. Empty, that means no more time, no more space. Universe gone. Unfortunately, this is something contrarians like to disregard. Rather than shatter the universe, they had Goku come up with a new technique which negated the power causing the shockwaves that would have crumbled the universe. And they had characters tell us that the universe was going to crumble. This was them trying to articulate to us they were going to destroy the universe. Now, throughout Dragon Ball, Akira Toriyama has tried to put forward his author's intent through characters of wisdom, usually characters that are wise in martial arts. If you go back to Dragon Ball, you'll have Master Roshi, Korin, Kami, all give the gist on what's just occurred. In Dragon Ball Z, you'll have King Kai, you could even say Piccolo at points. In the Buu saga, you could say the Supreme Kai Shin for a few episodes until the introduction of the Elder Kai. Then he was the voice of wisdom at the end of Dragon Ball Z. Coming into the Battle of God saga, he was the character with the foremost authority on power. And you know what? He told us that the universe would crumble after 3 consecutive decisive collisions. But he was the foremost authority at the end of Z. In Dragon Ball Super, they introduced Whis, who is now the foremost authority. I guess you could probably say the Grand Priest is now, but especially at the beginning of Dragon Ball Super, it was Whis. Whis tells us that they are going to destroy the world. Was he talking in retrospect to Earth? No, he clearly says before that, Beerus thought he would only destroy the solar system at best, but they are actually going to destroy the world, implying the actual universe. This still isn't enough for most contrarians. But Dragon Ball Super goes even further than that. They even have a fourth wall breaking Authority. The narrator tells us that Goku and Beerus are going to shatter the universe. This is the author or the writing team consistently trying to tell us what is happening without having to display what's happening for plot convenience. Using authoritative characters to explain the narrative isn't something that's exclusive to Toriyama. It's quite common in writing in general. Let's get this straight. It doesn't have to be an authoritative character to take their statements seriously. It can be any character, but when the author is really trying to insinuate something, they will use these authoritative characters, and this was done consistently. At this stage of the game in Dragon Ball Super, it is either denialism, cognitive dissonance, or your own personal incredulity if you do not believe Goku was universal in the Battle of Gods. Ultimately, what I'm trying to say is when power scaling, it's not just applicable physiology that's important, the author's intent is important as well, and the story we are being told. You have to find a way to evaluate the narrative with science where possible. Of course, it's not always possible because some things in the fiction break the law of physics, for example, light speed. These characters are massively faster than light, which would break down general relativity in reality. The multiverse is still a theoretical concept, but in Dragon Ball, it's a reality because it's a fictional verse. You just apply what you can, where you can, and try to make the best sense of evaluating each character's powers. Feelings and apathy towards a character have nothing to do with it. You ask me my own personal opinion, I don't like the fact that the Dragon Ball characters have gotten so strong so fast. I'd rather they took their time with it. In my humble opinion, Goku going from around galactic level to universal level from the Super Saiyan God ritual was ridiculous. But it is what it is, and that is the story we are being told. We just evaluate the story. So why do the laws of power scaling Dragon Ball work differently to other verses? Well, that is because of ki. So this is important, guys. If you really cannot fathom why some power scalers claim Goku is multiversal by the time he gets to Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken levels, what I'm about to say will ultimately explain how they have come to that conclusion. It has been stated throughout the entire Dragon Ball franchise, even since early Dragon Ball, the increase of your ki will exponentially increase all your combat abilities, including power, speed, and strength. Now, the ideology of ki is a very Eastern concept, but it isn't exactly what it is in Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball has taken it to a fictional level where they can literally turn their ki into plasma to use for attacking and defensive purposes, amplifying the user's power far beyond superhuman abilities. Even Krillin, for example, should technically have enough power to destroy planet Earth. More, in fact. Akira Toriyama stated in an interview that Super Saiyan is a 50 times multiplier. His original idea was for it to be a 10 times multiplier. This is because a 10 times multiplier wouldn't have made him as strong as Frieza, who he was fighting at the time. In fact, Kaioken times 20 didn't make him as strong as Frieza, who he was fighting at the time, so he made it a 50 times multiplier. It multiplied his combat abilities by 50 times. If you increase the power of your base, Super Saiyan will still be a 50 times multiplier, but overall it will increase your overall power in Super Saiyan. Transformations do give you a power hack, but to truly increase your power, you increase your base. Whis says this in episode 18 of Dragon Ball Super. Without increasing their base power, Goku and Vegeta's Super Saiyan transformations are going to be useless against other high-level foes. If you look at Goku's fight against Vegeta in the Saiyan Saga, when he uses Kaioken times 3, it multiplies his power by 3 times, allowing him to compete with Vegeta, who were 2 times stronger than he was. I'm sure you remember Goku had a power of it's over 8,000, and Vegeta had a power level of 18,000. 3 times 8,000 is 24,000. That's when Goku started winning. Vegeta reaffirms this in the God of Destruction tournament between Universe 6 and Universe 7. When Goku uses the Kaioken on top of Super Saiyan Blue, he explains that it multiplies all his combat abilities, speed, strength, and power, multiplying it by the number that Goku amps it up to, times 2, times 10, times 20, whichever one he chooses. But essentially, it multiplies all combat abilities. Just as Super Saiyan does, Super Saiyan 2, Super Saiyan 3, Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken, and Ultra Instinct. Whilst we don't know the official multiplier for all of these, we know that they all increase your power. This is why we extrapolate feats that we know have occurred in Dragon Ball. I mean, if you go back to early Dragon Ball, Master Roshi blew up the moon with a power level of 139. Piccolo once again blew up the moon in early Dragon Ball Z. Frieza blew up planet Vegeta in his first form, casually. Goku and Beerus were going to destroy a universe. We take all these analytics and data and extrapolate them and find out how strong they would be at full power. We are essentially scaling their power through the narrative. And the reason we conclude their power to be at pretty much sickening levels is because that is the story we've been told. We've been told that increasing your ki increases your combat skills exponentially. So until that's contradicted, until we're told that's not the way anymore, by the story itself or through an interview with Akira Toriyama, there's no reason to believe why it isn't continuing in that way. If contradictory information does come out contradicting the way we've been power scaling, of course we will adapt and evaluate again. We can only evaluate on official information we actually have and not apply headcanon, because we don't like how powerful these characters have gotten. Sure, Ki is an Eastern philosophy and it's not widely known in the Western world. Sure, it is known slightly, but it's not a major thing. If you wanted to power scale comic book characters, you cannot use this Ki because it doesn't exist in the comic book world, at least not with all the major characters that we generally talk about. But with Dragon Ball, it is a law in Dragon Ball: increase your Ki, increase your power exponentially. So if these characters are so powerful, why aren't they destroying everything around them? Well, that's simply suppression. These characters have been capable of suppression ever since early Dragon Ball. Geekdom 101 did bring a video out on that last night. Make sure you check it out. I won't go too much into detail about it because he already covers it. But Dragon Ball characters have such ki control, they can condense their ki into an area of effect. For example, Vegeta's final explosion, which was literally Majin Vegeta blowing up with all his power, literally only made a crater on Earth, whereas Vegeta was stronger than Final Form Frieza come the Android Saga. So surely it should have blown up the planet? No, because he condensed all his energy into an area of effect. Just because we evaluate these characters at being such high power levels doesn't mean we agree with how they got there. For example, Golden Frieza's 4-month training was ridiculous. Android 17, how has he got that power? Ultimate Gohan competing with a post-Battle of Gods Super Saiyan 2 Goku, even trading blows with Super Saiyan Blue Goku. It's ridiculous, it doesn't make sense. But as I keep saying, personal feelings and apathy towards certain characters play no part in scaling the character's abilities. We just evaluate what we see. I will say this though, we're quick to criticise. For example, when we saw Krillin go up against Super Saiyan Blue Goku, a lot of us saying, what, does that mean Krillin's god tier levels? I mean, that was literally explained 20 or 30 episodes later when Goku almost eliminated Jiren in Super Saiyan Blue by using strategy. Power levels do make a difference, but at the same time, strategy can be used as equalizers. Goku literally used the same strategy Krillin used on him, and Goku was only in Super Saiyan at that point. He wasn't even in Super Saiyan Blue. Goku was simply testing out Krillin's resolve when facing off against a Super Saiyan Blue level tier character. Anyway, inherently, this is how we scale these characters. Power scaling isn't inherently evil. It's fun. I find it fun. I enjoy this subculture of Dragon Ball. I don't just enjoy this subculture. I enjoy theories. I enjoy quite a lot of subcultures. If you have a preference of which subculture you like, that's fair enough. It's your personal truth. Continue to watch what you want to watch. But I will say this, if you do not like a subculture of Dragon Ball and you do not like a certain type of videos, don't click on them. It is as simple as that. If somebody else likes different content to you, let them get on with it. I don't care if you like other kind of content to what I like. Personally, for me, I just believe content creators should not lie to you. They shouldn't try to deceive you. I believe if you respect your audience, they will respect you back. Of course, there's a lot of clickbait in this community at the moment. There always has been, but it feels like it's getting out of hand at the moment. I've noticed a problem with people actually recognizing what clickbait actually is. You'll see clickbait with 600,000 views that will use words like proof, secret, hidden, revealed in their title. When you watch the video, the context of the video basically does none of these things. There's no proof, there's no secret, there's nothing hidden, there's nothing revealed. It's essentially clickbait trash. But then you'll see credible YouTubers who actually put out information where the context of the video does fit the title and it does fit the thumbnail that they use. Guys, all YouTubers, even the most credible ones, even ones that I respect, use eye-grabbing thumbnails. They try to pick out the most attention-grabbing titles. It doesn't make it clickbait. We are just in an ocean of content that, as a content creator, you're doing yourself an injustice if you aren't trying to grab someone's attention. As long as the context is there, it should be fine. It's not clickbait. If somebody puts "it's approved by Toriyama" on their title, it's clickbait, because at no point will you find out in that video that it's approved by Akira Toriyama. Anyway, keep an eye out for this stuff. Think critically. If you don't like something, don't click it, because essentially by clicking it, you're supporting them, even if you dislike their video. We really need to stop supporting those who would want to diminish our community. Support credible YouTubers. Support the smaller guys as well. There's a lot of smaller YouTubers who really deserve more recognition. Some of them are critically undersubbed, yet provide great content. Make sure you support them. Anyway, thanks for taking your time to listen to me. It was a long video today. I just wanted to talk about power scaling in general and the community in general. I'm massively looking forward to episode 129 tonight. Smash that like button, lend me your energy. Until next time, Ad Astra.